Hi, everyone, and welcome to Entrepreneurs Velocity and our very important video today on profit and loss statements. I'm Marysia Czarski, the founder of Entrepreneurs Velocity, and I would like to welcome Cindy Warner Beck, who is our CFO, joining us, expert in everything to do with your finances. And Cindy, welcome.
Thank you, Marysia.
Profit and loss statements, P&Ls. Let's start and just dive right in here. And why are they important that our entrepreneurs really understand how they work, what they are, what they look like, all of the important stuff of this statement?
So the P&L is really a report card of your business. It basically is telling you from a financial perspective, telling you how your business is doing on a month-to-month basis. The important thing is that it's a lagging indicator. So you get everything in at the end of the month, and it tells you how the last month went. But it's really showing, did you make money? How much did you sell? How much did your overhead cost? All of those items.
And when we talk about lagging indicators, it's a little bit like saying, looking in the rearview mirror of your car and seeing
Absolutely.
where you've driven, as opposed to a leading indicator, which is looking through the front windshield of your car where you're headed. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's really important to have both pieces. It's really important to know where you've been and what's happened there, so you can learn from it. Would be the next step of not just generating numbers, but really trying to learn from what those numbers said, and then looking ahead and seeing what's coming up and where you're going. So we will have a chance to talk about pipelines and sales pipelines in an upcoming video, but that's a really key leading indicator that can give you an idea of where you're heading with your business.
Great. And we're calling it profit and loss statement. Sometimes there are other names to describe these, and I know it can confuse my clients if we're actually always talking about the same thing, but we are. So what have you found in your journeys of sometimes what these are also called?
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember when I learned accounting in school, profit and loss is actually an old term, but that seems to be the more common term used with small and medium-sized enterprises. But profit and loss statements are P&L, or it's also called the income statement.
Right, exactly.
Income statement sometimes is considered the newer term, although I don't hear it used that often anymore.
Yeah, so it's all the same thing, everybody.
All the same thing. Yeah.
So, Cindy, tell us some best practices of the profit and loss statement that our entrepreneurs need to know about.
So I'm going to touch on two really key ones. One I just already touched on a little bit is timing. So it's really easy to, as an entrepreneur, you're busy, you've got somebody doing your books. It's really easy to just not get your receipts to them, not get them your information, and then your P&L just doesn't actually get done, or it's sort of in this continual update status and just doesn't. It doesn't really mean an awful lot. So the first piece is actually making sure it's done in a timely manner after month end. So setting up some structures with your bookkeeper to make sure that they know you expect to have this by the 15th to 20th of the month is a reasonable time frame. So they know that you expect to have it. Your own structures that sometime in the first week of the month, you've got to have timing set aside to make sure you pull together all your receipts, get your bookkeeper any information they need. Whether that relates to inventory if you're selling products, whether that relates to subcontractors if you are selling services and you contract that out. So timely income statements and timing is really the first piece. The second piece would be structure, and we'll get into why this is important in a minute, but structure is how is it set up? So having a clear and concise income statement that tracks what you need it to track for your business, and can be a work in itself to figure that piece out, but making sure it tracks what you need it to track in as few accounts as possible. So you don't want accounts going on ad nauseum that you maybe put one expense in over the course of the year. Just like if you're doing a personal budget at home, you want to set up, you might want to track spending on entertainment, but not have movies separate from Netflix, separate from, I don't know, what other entertainment there used to be when we could go in and do things.
Less these days, but yes.
Yeah, so I think those,
Gotcha.
timely income statements and a structure that is clear and concise and works for your business.
Got it. So it needs to be timely. Monthly is what you recommend.
Yeah.
That there's a structure the way it's set up. Sometimes I find it can be months before a client may actually set the time aside and look at what those numbers are doing. So talk to
Yes.
me about that best practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're putting the processes in place and the structure in place to, and literally the best way to do this is like put a recurring booking in your calendar in the first week of the month that you need an hour to 2 hours. And once you get into the habit of doing this, it probably really is about an hour you're going to need a month to get everything together, to get it to your bookkeeper. You make sure your bookkeeper is doing actually doing the work by the 15th or 20th, whatever you work together with them on, and then you set aside time in your calendar to review it and to see, okay, there's lots of different reports your bookkeeper can really easily pull. They can pull your P&L by month for the past 12 months, and you can look at the patterns there and see what they say. They can pull some reports that have your percentage change over last month, and so you don't even have to do any calculations. You can just see how your revenue's grown, if your expenses have changed. So yeah, making sure that you set aside that time and possibly with somebody who has some financial expertise and can give you some guidance on that piece of it as well.
Yeah, and on the having the financial expertise and having a bookkeeper, if you haven't watched the last video I created, it is all around your unique creative capabilities. And for those of you who've done this exercise, it's very possible that bookkeeping, if you're doing it yourself, is falling in the competent category. Or if it's falling in the incompetent category, your number one thing to do now is to go out and get yourself a good bookkeeper. Make sure you do your research, but get one. If it's in your competent category, that's great that you have the competence to create your numbers, but honestly, pay someone else to do this, free up your time, because that's what they love to do. That's their unique creative capability, and they will love bringing you those numbers with what Cindy's saying with you if you ask them to help you even identify patterns. Good bookkeeper probably would enjoy helping you pull out what's important. Is that probably right, Cindy?
Yeah, they can. A good bookkeeper should be able to do that and give you some level of insights into those and where you should be looking. Yeah.
And then there's the expertise that you would provide in terms of actually being able to interpret more of what that information means.
Yeah. What I typically do with clients that I work with is we have a pretty structured process where once the financial statements are done for each month, I spend a bit of time doing some analysis on them and trying to figure out what's the story behind the numbers, what do the numbers actually mean for your business, and then telling that story back and sort of seeing, did I miss anything? Is there something off here? Is this and what does this mean for decisions that we want to make for your business going forward?
Yeah. Cindy, any bad habits that you want to point out that our listeners should look in their mirror and make sure that they aren't doing with their profit and loss statements?
Yeah. So there's certainly a few, and I've kind of touched on there. Some of them are almost the opposite of the best practices. But first of all, having way too many accounts that it just is hard to even categorize. It's hard for your bookkeeper to know where to put something. It's hard for you to actually look at. So having too much in there. And this next one would be not even taking the time to look at it. And I think this is a really easy bad habit to get into. But not knowing the numbers of your business is definitely can set you up for some pitfalls and some bumpy roads ahead. And it makes it harder to make decisions about your business overall. Yeah. And then I think the last piece is not understanding it. So to Marisha's point on core competencies, and if you don't know what you're looking at, then it's not much point in looking at it, I guess. But there are lots of opportunities out there, and we'll be putting some information together on how do you understand your financial statements and what exactly are you looking at.
Really important, because the tax agency is going to come knocking on your company door, not on your bookkeeper's company door or your accountant's company door. So you want to make sure that those numbers are sound, and you can see trends if something looks off, you can kind of sniff it out and then get your bookkeeper to go deeper if something doesn't look right in your numbers, and the ramifications of what that could be. That is great, Cindy. Thank you. And so, to wrap up this part of this video, and what we're sharing with you is just the importance of knowing your numbers, of how they work, the best practices that go with that. And as Cindy has referred to, there'll be more information that we'll be sharing in our workshop. So if you haven't already signed up for that, please do. Cindy will be joining me to help take a deeper dive into some of this if needed, but also to answer questions, to coach people. If you need questions answered about what Cindy just shared, this video is in our Facebook page. Maybe you're watching it from our Facebook page. Post them underneath the video at the Entrepreneurs Velocity Facebook page to get those answered before our workshop. And definitely sign up, because that's the only way you'll get to actually have personalized time with us, is to join the workshop that we're having, the upcoming workshop. And in that workshop, we'll also be announcing a special bonus. So you have to attend the workshop to get that bonus. Cindy, thank you. Looking forward to that workshop, and people stay tuned, because Cindy's going to be joining me on a couple more videos to keep building on your confidence heading into the new year. Thanks.